You think you know what loneliness feels like until you feel a different kind of warmth, the kind that comes not from a memory but from a presence, a complicated presence. For 7 years, my bed was a tomb. My life was just a map of places no one reached anymore. Then he arrived. My 24-year-old nephew, broken by a lows, sent to me to heal. But the moment his shaking arms wrapped around me in the dark, we weren't just aunt and nephew anymore. We were just two souls starving for. The healing began with quiet breaths on my shoulder, on his hands, learning what safety felt like for the time. It's the silence that gets you. The kind-off silence that fills a house after Eamon is gone. 7 years of it, 7 years of an empty bed, cold sheets, and a heart that forgot what comfort felt like. My name is Jessica, I'm 52. And this is how the silence was. Not by a knock at the door, but by a broken boy sent to me by me, a boy who slowly became stronger in my care. My brother's call was frantic. Jessica, please. It's Leo, his heart. Some girl shattered it. He's a mess. He can't be. Just a few days. Leo, my nephew. I pictured the gangly teenager from Christmas photos. Big smile, all elbows and knees. The young man who showed up at my door wasn't that boy. He was 2'4" tall with a quiet strength that came from youth. But his eyes, God, his eyes were oceans of hurt. Deep, green, and shattered. When he hugged me hello, it wasn't Nephu's hug. It was a man clinging to solid ground. I felt the steady rise of his breath against mine, the tension in his back under my hands. A tremor, completely unexpected, ran through me. The first night, I heard him crying. A raw, broken sound from the guest room. My own lonely heart split open. I went to him without stopping to change or think. I didn't think, I just went. He was curled on the bed, turned away, sat on the edge, placed a hand on his aching shoulder. Leo, I whispered. He turned. His face was wet. In the moonlight, he looked so young, so lost, and then he reached for me. Not as awkward. He pulled me closer beside him, burying his face against my shoulder. His arms wrapped around me, holding on like I was the last safe place in a storm. I held him. My hand moved through his hair. My body stayed still beside his. I felt through it of his grief settle into me. And somewhere deep in my chest, a long silent part of me stirred awake. Guilt followed instantly, but the need to protect remained. Days passed. A quiet, careful rhythm. I'd catch him watching me, not with Nephu's ease, but with searching eyes. When Ibn to reach a pan from a low cupboard, I'd feel the room grow tense, my skin would tighten. I started choosing gentler clothes, softer layers. A part of me wanted peace. He'd walk past me in the hallway, his arm brushing mine. The contact was brief. We'd both pause for a second. A heavy silence hanging between us before moving on. One afternoon, I was playing piano, a sad old song. I felt him enter the room, felt his presence like a quiet weight. I didn't stop playing. He came and stood behind me. So close I could sense the warmth of another human being nearby. He placed his hands on my shoulders. His fingers were steady, grounding. They began to ease the tension from my neck, not as a cure but as reassurance. Slow, careful, his thumbs worked at the tight knots, his fingertips resting at my collarbone, reminding me I wasn't alone. My breath caught, my fingers hesitated in the keys. Don't stop, he murmured, his voice low close to my ear. I kept playing, but my world narrowed to that simple contact. His hands moved lower, resting between my shoulders, anchoring me there. Every touch was a question. My shaking breath was the answer. That night, we shared a bottle of wine. We sat on the couch. The space between us felt heavy, filled with unspoken things. I told him about his uncle, my Jacob, the loneliness, the long years of silence. My voice trembled. He listened. Then he reached out and took my hand, not holding it tightly, just turning it over, palm up. With one finger, hesitantly traced the lines of my hand, as if reading a story. My lips parted. A quiet breath escaped. He looked from my hand to my eyes. The room seemed to hold its breath. He leaned closer. I didn't move. His forehead rested briefly against mine. The moment stayed fragile. A release. I hadn't known I needed rose in my chest. And the sound that escaped me was not desire, but grief finally letting go. And I held on to him tightly. My hands went to his face, feeling thoroughness of a life not yet settled. The strong line of his jaw set with pain. He let out a broken sound, low and raw, and his arms wrapped around me, pulling me close, as if letting go would undo him. I stayed there, grounded, feeling the weight of his grief press into my chest. We stayed like that, clinging as if the world outside no longer existed. His forehead rested against mine, my hand steadying him, reminding him he was not alone. His breathing was uneven, mine matching it slowly, deliberately, until it was pure, unfiltered, need for comfort. Years of my loneliness met his fresh, angry pain, and they collided in that moment. He pulled back, breath unsteady. His forehead stayed against mine. "Jessica, we can't," he said quietly. "I know," I whispered, my voice shaking, but I didn't move away. "But I need to feel like someone is here." That honesty broke something open. His hands tightened briefly at my back. Not holding, just anchoring, as he stood and helped me to my feet. I followed, still close, still steadying him. He walked me to the bedroom, my bedroom, not the guest room. He helped me sit on the edge of the bed, then knelt in front of me, his hand rested at my wrist, then moved away. "You're strong," he said quietly. The moonlight catching his eyes, the words landed heavier than any touch. My chest rose sharply as I swallowed the emotion building there. He looked down, then back up, grounding me. The moment passed slowly, painfully, but with care. I felt him enter the room, felt his presence like a weight I could lean on. I didn't stop playing the piano. He came and stood behind me, so close I could sense the warmth of another person near. He placed his hands on my shoulders, steadying me, reminding me I wasn't alone. His fingers worked slowly, pressing gently into the tension I carried in my neck and back, not as therapy, but as comfort. My breath caught, not from desire, but from the overwhelming sense of being seen, of being held without judgment. "Don't stop," he murmured, his voice low and calm. I kept playing, letting the music fill the spaces between us. His presence was enough grounding, solid, and reassuring. We sat together that night, sharing a quiet bottle of wine on the couch. The space between us hummed with unspoken words. I told him about his uncle, my Jacob, the loneliness, the years of quiet, the heartache. My voice trembled. He listened, and then he reached out to take my hand, not gripping tightly, just turning it over, palm up, his finger tracing the line slowly, almost reverently. The simple gesture carried more warmth than any words could. My chest tightened, a mix of relief and comfort. He leaned in, resting his forehead against mine. We stayed like that, letting the silence speak. The tension of our grief, our longing for connection, dissolved in that simple closeness. I realized then that healing wasn't about passion, it was about trust, presence, and allowing yourself to be vulnerable without fear. Days passed in this quiet rhythm. We moved through the house carefully around each other, aware of the space we shared, yet never forced. When I bent to reach something in the kitchen, I could feel his gaze on me, not inappropriately, but attentively, with concern and care. The house was no longer empty. The silence that had filled it for 7 years was replaced by the steady heartbeat of two people learning to mend. We were both fragile, yet we found strength in each other. Each shared glance, each supportive gesture, was a small triumph over the loneliness that had haunted us for so long. I realized then that the deepest connections aren't always physical. They are emotional, forged in moments of trust, understanding, and shared pain. And in that quiet, fragile space, we began to rebuild what we had lost: hope, companionship, and the courage to feel again.